So, you're in college or thinking of going to college. You have a child, a friend, a relative who's starting their college journey. And you're asking yourself this question: will I get the most out of college? What would I get out of my college experience? Will going to college get me to where I want to be in future? Hello, I am Dr. Yu. I'm your host, and this is a new series on our channel, Microbiology Explained. In this series, we're going to go over a college student's experience. I'm going to ask and try and explore how to make the most out of your college experience in order to be successful both in college and in your post college world. This series is going to be made out of things that I wish I was exposed to when I was in school, and I'm going to try and expose that to you. Why am I even doing this series? This is not our usual work, and one of the things that drove me to do this is, as many of you know, I teach in college, but I also have a vibrant world, a vibrant life in the corporate world as well, and so I managed to straddle both particular worlds, the corporate world on one side and the world of academia on the other, and I can see the deficiencies and the needs of both of them. And one of the observations that I've seen time and time again is students, upon graduating from college, lack many of the skills. They struggle so hard in adjusting to the workplace or even getting into the workplace. And that struggle pains me deeply. And so part of the reason why I'm making this series is to help prepare students to think differently about their journey. Hopefully they'll learn from my experiences, which I'm going to draw from, what experiences of people I know, and then they will be able to think differently and act differently and hopefully be more successful. I'm daring you as a student to think differently. And so let's begin with the end in mind. After college, you want a job, right? You want a job, everybody wants a job. Hopefully, that job will develop into a career. And you have to start thinking of jobs versus careers. A job is something that you work for and it pays you over time. A career is a series of progressively more difficult or interesting or challenging jobs that leads you to some higher goal, and it includes education, certification, and everything in between. I hope that you start thinking about your bigger career as opposed to just your job. And that's one of the things I want to provoke in front of you. But let's start about that just at getting a job. The traditional way of getting a job is you go online to the internet, you look for things, and then you apply systematically one after the other. Don't do that to yourself, all right? It's a painful process and it's a heart wrenching process, and I don't want you to go through that process as your only way of securing your future. Here are a couple of statistics which I'm going to throw at you, which should help discourage you from just thinking that way. The first is that 60% of jobs are found through networking, not online, which means it's your cousin or your neighbor down the street or your doctor's friend who she knows somebody who is looking for what your qualifications are. And so a lot of your emphasis should shift towards networking and creating a network. And that's something that young people do not appreciate nowadays, that you need to know a lot of people professionally. Another thing is 75% of resumes are rejected before they get to the hiring manager. For those of you who don't know, the hiring manager is the person who sits down, receives a resume, and says, oh, actually even created the job or told the company, we need this job. And that's the person who makes the final decision about whether you or get hired or not. And if your resume doesn't even get to that person, guess what? You're eliminated before it even starts. Why doesn't it get to that person? Very often, when you apply generically, some algorithm can reject your resume because it doesn't have the right keywords. Or some HR person will look at it and feel it doesn't fit. And that will be penalizing you even before the person who's making the decision sees it. Another statistic is that 77% of recruiters rely on LinkedIn. If you're a young person, heck, if you're an old professional, but definitely if you're young and starting, get a LinkedIn profile. I don't care whether you're active on social media or not. It is just absolutely essential nowadays to have some basic profile there that says and talks about who you are. Here's another fact: 54% of employers have rejected candidates based on the social media profile. That's interesting, right? They actually look through your social media profile. I have, for people I've tried to hire. I know I've looked at people's social media profiles when I'm looking to find about them before I want to work with them in the future. Here's something that happened to me. I was in an interview a couple of years ago, and I was talking with the gentleman, and it was going well back and forth. And he made a comment, something along the lines of, "Oh yes, and your son has a nice smile and everything." And then afterwards, I reflected and I realized that I hadn't yet told him about my family. And somehow he knew. And I realized he had looked at my Facebook page, logically. And on my Facebook page is a picture of my son and I smiling and laughing together. And that created the right image or impression in his mind. So it's very important for you to consider your social media profile. Now, think about what you're projecting to future employers in order to minimize them looking at you as a source of risk. Another statistic is 5 applicants out of hundreds actually get a face to face interview. So out of 250 applicants, only 5 of them will get a face to face interview. That's a really, really small number. That means that you have to apply to a whole bunch of places for the chance to even begin to start presenting yourself. So if you rely only on that method to get to jobs, you would suffer very hard. Hence, I strongly encourage you to shift your mindset to other methods of looking for jobs. Um, More than 70% of people who are currently employed are looking for a new job. That's just an interesting statistic out there. And the average job search in the US takes 5 months. So that means that you should start planning now for getting a job in 4 to 5 or 6 months from now, if that's your desire, if not longer. And then lastly, I want to hit you on another point. There's such a thing as fake job advertisements. And this is interesting because when I found out about it, I was aghast and a little bit furious. There are other people who have discussed this in greater detail, but let me just highlight some of the reasons or ways in which a job may not be a real job out there, even though there's an advertisement. The first reason is they may already have a candidate in mind. They have an internal person who's more than well qualified for it, but because of law or regulation, they must post the job publicly, so the company or government organization does. And you unknowingly apply to the job thinking, oh, yeah, this is a great job. And yet you never had a chance because they already had somebody in mind. That's happened to me on both sides, and it's not a pleasant experience when that happens. Another possibility is that the the company is using it as a form of advertisement. So when companies pay for jobs to be advertised, they usually pay for a whole batch, so a bulk, maybe 5 jobs for 6 months or 10 jobs for a year or something like that. So they've already paid for these, and so it doesn't benefit them to take the job down because whenever people are still searching for the job, they see the company name, so it acts as a form of advertising, and so it's fantastic for the company in order to get its name out because I've already paid for the service. But you unwittingly are applying or thinking about the job when this job is no longer available, has been filled, or whatever the case may be. And that's unfortunate, but that can hurt you. Another way is, let's see, the one of the metrics which companies' success is judged is hiring. Is a company growing or not? And so very often jobs are created or left in order to create the impression to investors or outsiders that there is constant activity and hiring going on in the company. And when you create that impression, then it makes the company look more valuable or more successful than it actually is. And there's some other reasons, and I will go into these in detail in one of my other videos. But the whole point being that there's a lot happening behind the scenes which you may not know about. And if you approach every institution or place you're hiring as just some stranger on the internet, you will never get past that wall, or you would stumble a lot more than you want to. So here's an example from my own life, and I'll try and draw these examples to drive home some of these points. Me, the same Dr. You that you see in front of here, same resume, same jobs, same company. I did two things. On one hand, I did the traditional apply online method. I filled out the form, talked about everything about myself, and sent the application letter. After about 3 hours, I think, maybe, a rejection letter came back saying, I'm sorry, you do not fit the criteria for this job, blah, 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 blah. But I happen to have known that there's a mutual friend of mine and the hiring manager of that company. So I emailed my friend saying, hey, can I use you as a reference? And she said, sure, no problem. And so I used her as a reference and I put her name in the subject and I emailed the hiring manager saying, hello, X referred me to you. I'm interested in this job. Here's my resume. Have a look at it, please. The hiring manager emailed me back saying, hey, that's a great resume. You look like you'll be a great fit. You know what? Let's have an interview. So I got an interview. Within a few hours of rejecting letter from the generic application process, which probably wasn't even read by a human being, the actual hiring manager was talking to me, and we had a 1.5 hour interview, a really long interview, talking about the job and the possibilities and everything about that. Why did this happen? What was different? I mean, it's just me, right? And this sort of frustration is what made me put this presentation together. I don't want you to get complacent in your job search. I don't want you to get complacent in your career development, which is even more important. And so we're going to work on it together. I'll send a couple of videos, several videos, which would guide you through different aspects of things that if you started earlier on in your career when you're in college, you'll do much, much better. First thing I'm going to do is going to throw a homework exercise at you. If you don't have one already, go home today, after watching this video, before the end of tonight, start your LinkedIn profile. It takes 5, 10, 15 minutes maximum of your time. Rather than watch a series, just start that profile and get the ball rolling. That way you can start building your own professional brand. So I hope you got something out of this. If you like this video, subscribe and share this video with your friends. I really want to reach as many young people as possible. In the next video, I'm going to dive further into more specific advice as to how to get better and get the most out of your college experience. Thank you very much and see you all in the next video. Bye now.